Hi, vinyl community. Jeff back for a VC thread response this time for Chris Prophy. He wants to see Sinatra records. So, Frank Sinatra is actually an artist that I wanted for a long time to go through and show my records. Chris is only asking to see records, not CDs or other forms of media. So, I thought I would oblige and go through and talk about these. Francis Albert Sinatra, born December 12th, 1915. This first one really isn't a Sinatra album. It is a soundtrack for a musical that Frank Sinatra starred in called Higher and Higher. And I'm not really sure about this particular pressing. There's not a lot of information about it. I don't know the age of it. The musical came out in 1943, so I'm not sure if the LP itself came out that year or shortly thereafter, maybe years later for all I know. There's one brief entry on it online, but there's no information about the year when it was released or even if there were subsequent pressings about it. But anyways, like I say, it's not a Sinatra album, but kind of subtitled The Sinatra Show to the soundtrack Higher and Higher. Not really much to talk about Frank Sinatra. I mean, yeah, of course, he's one of the most influential musicians, singers of the 20th century, who everybody knows and can kind of relate to. Of course, he did a number of movies and musicals as well. But aside from sort of detailing who the composers are on the albums and what labels are on, I mean, essentially most of his early stuff was Capitol. He had the odd Columbia release. So really don't want to go into specifics that aren't really going to be overly interesting to a lot of people. This is actually a Columbia release simply called The Voice. One of my favorite records, In the Wee Small Hours. Depression, dark, very glum in nature. And it's kind of interesting because with Frank Sinatra, he has a lot of depressing, sort of lonely type of records that he sings about. And the others are upbeat and swing in nature. So the fact that he has and sings about such varying themes at opposite ends of the spectrum is incredible. Here's a swinging one. Songs for Swingin' Lovers. Again on Capitol. This is a compilation, aptly called This Is Sinatra, on Capitol. A Swingin' Affair. This is actually a UK pressing. Nice condition. Fold back, can you see them there? Maybe not so much. Fold back kind of covers around the edging. This is a popular one, Come Fly With Me, where he sings about travel, vacationing. Back to loneliness again. Only the Lonely. Upbeat again. Come Dance With Me. And back down again. No One Cares. Still on Capitol. Nice and Easy. Come Swing With Me. One of the last ones on Capitol. It might be the very last one. I'm not sure. In 1960, he left Capitol Records and formed his own label, which of course is Reprise Records. And the very first album he released on Reprise was Ring-a-Ding-Ding. Of course, there's the early tricolor Reprise label, of course, with Frank pictured. Sinatra's Swingin' Sessions, a Capitol release. I absolutely love this cover. Has an eerie look about it, and just the color of it too. Always loved it. This is All Alone. The first of two albums with Count Basie, simply called Sinatra. Basie, an historic musical first. This is a reprise pressing. It's a UK pressing, an original mono on the tricolor. You can kind of see how the peel on the cover is kind of starting to break away. But compilation here, Frank Sinatra Sings Rodgers and Hart. This might have been one of the very first, if not the first, Sinatra record that I got. Softly as I Leave You. Second one with Basie here, It Might As Well Be Swing. And the arrangements on this album were done by Quincy Jones. This is actually on an all black, or black and silver, if you will, reprise. Another comp, Sinatra 65. Two copies of September My Years. They're both Canadian, slightly different. You can kind of see down at the bottom the rear jacket configuration's a little bit different, but one of them I got for $1, so I picked it up, and they're both in nice shape. One of my favorite albums of his, Strangers in the Night, of course with the title track on it, and also Summer Wind, which was a huge song for Frank. Tracks 1 and 2, side 1. First time when I saw Springsteen for the first time about 7-8 years ago, before he came on stage, they actually had Summer Wind cranking. Kind of an odd selection before starting a Springsteen concert with him walking out on stage. That's Life. All boring back white covers essentially, but essays to read about. This is a great one too. He duels up with Antonio Carlos Jobim. This one is a nice release. And almost all of these records, they don't have the year on the jacket. This one's with Nancy, The World We Knew, over and over. Nice picture on the, colored picture of Frank on the back. And still sticking with the family. This is their Christmas album, just called We Wish You a Merry Christmas, the Sinatra Family. My Way. A lot of nice covers on this release. And the very last one that I have is the Main Event Live, which was a performance at Madison Square Gardens in 74, I think, or 75. Again, not on the cover. Oh, it's on the front. October 74. This was actually the very first VCLT I ever received from somebody who's long gone in the vinyl community. Some of you might remember Dave from the Vinyl Vault. He sent this my way, my very first VCLT. And that does it for my Frank Sinatra records. Hope you enjoyed that. Have a great weekend, everybody. Happy Father's Day to the dads out there. Bye for now.